So apparently, there's some of y'all out there that don't know how to properly cook bacon. Some of y'all are out there making bacon like you work at the Holiday Inn or some shit like that. So today, I'm going to show you guys how to make bacon the right way. First thing you want to do is start with some legit bacon, okay? Your bacon should look like this. It should come in basically a brick of meat, okay? If you're getting that bacon that's all fanned out and it's all thin and shit like that, then you're already starting off with the wrong bacon, and you're probably not going to be able to turn crappy bacon, crappy raw bacon into good cooked bacon. So you want to get something nice and thick. Like look at those pieces, or you can probably see it better on the fatty side. So look at those pieces, okay? That's twice as thick as that standard, Jimmy Bean or whatever the fuck type of bacon that most normies are getting at the grocery store. All right, once we've got the right type of bacon, we want to have the right pan for the job. Really, the pan doesn't matter that much. I mean, just get a standard frying pan. Don't get any of that like gimmicky, bacon cooker stuff that, you see on TV. All of that stuff is a scam. You can cook bacon in a pan just like your grandpa did. This one is a copper ceramic pan, so I guess if you get something like that, it's not going to stick as much, but this isn't even that bougie. I think this pan's like maybe 10 or 20 bucks off Amazon. Now, where people make the biggest mistake when they cook bacon is how high they put the heat, okay? So take a look at that right there. So you see that's my front right burner, and I don't even have that thing on medium. I have it on basically medium low is what I guess you could call that. All right, so your bacon shouldn't be cooking super duper fast, okay? Bacon isn't a speed race type thing. It's something that, you kind of slow cook it. Not as slow as a roast or anything like that, but it's something that you should slow cook. If somebody gives you bacon, and it's shrunk down to like 1/4 the size of its raw form, then that means that the person is cooking the bacon wrong. So let's go ahead and start throwing these on here. Actually, I should probably put this down so I can open it with two hands. All right, so our bacon's open, and I'm a little bit hungry today, so I'm gonna have 3 pieces. I'm gonna just peel 3 pieces of this beautiful bacon off. All right, so look at that, see? It's nice and thick. This isn't any type of thin cut bacon that we're dealing with, so let's start throwing these babies on the pan. And notice how it doesn't make a super loud, evil sounding sizzle. That's because, again, we're not putting our fire up super high where it doesn't need to be. This is going to produce just enough grease to basically keep our bacon from sticking to the pan. And in fact, if you have a crappy frying pan, you might even want to add a little bit of olive oil or something to the bottom of this, because if your pan's super old, if it's like rusty, something that your grandpa had when he fought in World War II, then your bacon might not end up cooking correctly. All right, so we're gonna give that a few minutes to cook, and then we'll be ready to flip it. All right, so this bacon is ready to get flipped. And I did turn up the heat just a little bit on here, but you can see I really didn't move the dial much. It's still below medium. You don't really want to be going beyond here. Now, I like my bacon to be a little bit on the crispy side. I mean, not on the crispy side, on the chewy side, excuse me. So basically, I know my bacon's ready to flip when it starts getting just a little bit transparent, or I guess translucent would be a more accurate term. So let's start flipping this. Probably should have greased the pan just a little bit, because this pan is starting to get old. Look at that, it's not sticking too much. All right, so you see this isn't something that's super stiff, okay? It didn't shrink to 1/4 of its size. There's barely any grease that's coming off of it there. We're locking all of that stuff, that's in there. And then some of you might be thinking, oh, well, why would I want to have all that grease? Isn't grease bad for you? Blah, blah, blah. Not really. I mean, as long as you exercise. I just came from being in the gym for 2 hours, so a little bit of grease isn't really going to hurt me. You need to have a little bit of fat in your diet anyway. A little bit of fat's good for you. Just, you know, do it in moderation. Don't eat bacon every single day. Don't sit on your ass playing video games or doing nothing all day. Get out there and, you know, lift some weights, go for a run, climb a mountain, go for a hike, anything like that. All right, so let's let that cook a little bit more. And you know what? I'm going to show you guys how to make some eggs too, because if you're making screwed up bacon, you're probably making some screwed up eggs as well. All right, so again, this is going to be no gimmick. We're going to make eggs just like how your grandpa made them. We don't need any type of fancy egg making machines. All we need is some little thing to stir them up in. And so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to be making scrambled eggs today. If you guys haven't guessed, you know, of course you can do sunny side up or whatever type of eggs you want, but I'm in the mood for scrambled eggs. So some people, they'll go out of their way to buy, you know, some as seen on TV pan for, you know, $29.99 or whatever. This is just a container that I got when I bought, I think potato salad or something like that. So you just need something like that. And here's a little trick for when you're making scrambled eggs. So when you're making scrambled eggs, you just add a little bit of salt into it when you're stirring it up. The salt will basically help the eggs break up a little bit. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the Himalayan salt. You know, you can get some other type of salt if you don't want bougie salt. Honestly, the salt's not even that bougie. It's pretty cheap, really. All right, and I just like to pierce all the yolks first, and then I just go in there and start going crazy. It's better if you use a container that's a little bit taller, because if you use a taller container instead of like a little bowl, there's less risk that you're going to spill anything out. So just stir that bad boy up real good. All right, and look at that. You know when you start to get a little bit of bubbles that it's ready. That means that the eggs are going to come out nice and fluffy. And let's add a little bit of vegetables to our eggs as well. All right, cut that cheese up in a moment. All right, I had to pause the video briefly just to take my bacon off the pan. So you can see this. This is about half and half. It's about half chewy, half crispy. But you can see that it didn't shrink up into some little tiny size. Yeah, like this one's the crispiest one. This is the one I had in the middle of the pan. Because my stove's a little bit weird. My stove is warmer in the middle than it is on the other sides. I guess that's how everybody's stove is, unless you have some new stove that's got really good diffusion technology. But this is a cheap apartment, so I'm not gonna have any type of fancy appliances. All right, so let's get to chopping our vegetables, and it would help if I had a knife. All right, so we have a knife here. This is actually a pretty good knife. It's a Victorinox, so make sure you have a knife, make sure it's sharp and everything. And we're going to start by chopping up an onion. So we just want to remove these screwed up parts of the onion, because you don't really want that part. You know, you don't really want these parts here. And I'm not going to make something super duper oniony. I'm just going to chop one good slice like that. Actually, you know what? Let's go for another slice. This will probably make all the Shrek fans happy with all the onion we're eating. All right, so chop it up like that, and then we're just going to dice it. Again, be super careful not to cut your fingers off, because nobody likes fingers in their scrambled eggs. Unless you're serving cannibals, but if you're serving cannibals, you got more problems than just how to make eggs. All right, so we got that sliced, and let's turn it, get that bad boy diced. All right. So there's our onions. And let's start dropping these into our little egg batter here. Oh, there's another piece of onion skin that I don't want. Get rid of that. All right, and let's start dropping this in. I want to be very careful so that I don't make a mess on my counter, because if I drop onion on my counter, that's more work I got to do later. Ah, I dropped some onion on my counter. All right, so there's our onion. Let's just scrape it off the blade into there. And I'm gonna chop up some mushrooms too. I like a little bit of mushrooms in my egg. So I just got this fresh thing of mushrooms at the grocery store. Let's chop up, I don't know, that seems like enough. You know what? We'll do one more. Anytime you think you have enough mushrooms, you gotta add one more. One more than what you think is enough is the real amount that is enough. And I'm just gonna chop this up so that it's bite-sized and it blends well. Because the thing with adding a bunch of fixins to scrambled eggs is that if you don't chop it up good, it doesn't end up mixing, and all your ingredients just end up going into one bite. You basically get one bite of your vegetables, and then the rest is just plain eggs, and nobody wants that. So we're gonna dice our mushrooms just the same as our onions. And this is actually more mushroom than I anticipated, but it's fine. Mushrooms are good for you. All right, so we got our mushrooms sliced and diced. Let's add those bad boys in. This is going to be some really, really thick scrambled egg mix. It looks like it's actually more mushrooms and onions than it is eggs. Let's see, I might have to add another egg into this, just so that it's not ridiculous. I don't know, let's see. Where'd I put my fork? Does that look like it needs another egg to you guys? Yeah, I think that's gonna need another egg. All right, let's grab another egg and throw it in here. And this is going to have an absurd amount of protein to it. All right, so let's blend this egg up just so that our whole mix is looking good. All right. All right, so that is going to be ready to cook. All right, and you might have been wondering, when is this block of cheese going to be coming into the mix? Well, I don't really put the block of cheese or any cheese at all inside of my eggs. Reason why is because this is actually sharp cheddar. And for those of you that don't know, sharp cheddar is a really hard cheese, so it doesn't really melt that well unless you cook it for a little while, or if you're cooking it on some really high heat, which isn't really going to be the case with my eggs. I'm only going to cook them on about medium heat inside of the bacon grease, and they're only going to cook for a few minutes. So what I like to do, because this is ultimately going to be going inside of a sandwich, and I don't know if all this is going to fit on the bread. I'm probably going to have some egg on the side too. But what I like to do is I like to just put the cheese on my bread and then put it into the toaster oven. And then that way, the cheese is perfectly melted, just the way that I want it to be, and it's on the bread. Also, it keeps the cheese from sticking to the pan, because I don't know if you guys have ever had cheese get stuck to a frying pan, but it's an absolute bitch to get off when you're doing your dishes. All right, so we got our cheese cut up. Let's go ahead and put this on our bread. And this is oat nut bread, by the way. If you're gonna make a, egg and bacon sandwich, you gotta have good bread, okay? Don't get that crappy Wonder Bread or whatever type of weird off-brand bread they have at your grocery store. Spend a little bit extra money, get your hands on some good bread. All right, let's throw this in the toaster oven for a bit. All right, so my bread is in the toaster oven. That's the little click, click, click you hear in the back. And we're ready to cook the eggs. So you can see this is all of the grease that came off of my bacon. Not a whole lot, you don't really need to have a whole lot coming off. And I turned my stove up a little bit. This is actually too warm for eggs. Because for eggs, scrambled eggs, I like to cook them on medium heat. All right, let's dump this colossal thing in. Man, that is a lot of eggs. And I still have some mushrooms stuck on the inside. All right, all right, so you see what I was talking about earlier, where my condiments, or I guess not condiments, my fixings, my onion and my mushroom is spread out fairly evenly throughout my eggs, okay? So every little bite of egg that we're gonna have is gonna have some of this stuff in it. And for scrambled eggs, all you gotta do is start moving it around, and it's just steadily gonna cook more and more. It's gonna start turning to, from an egg batter to some actual scrambled eggs. And this is just a plastic spatula. You don't need anything fancy to do this. Actually, in my opinion, it's a little bit better if you use a wooden spatula, but my wooden spatula is dirty right now, so gotta make do with what's clean. All right, and let that sit for a little while. I really wish I had a gas stove so I could adjust my temperature faster. All right, so we'll flip that over now. Again, scrape this pan. Mostly trying to make sure that not a whole lot sticks to it, because I don't have a dishwasher. Everything's going to be washed by hand, and I don't want to create too much work for myself. All right, this is coming together nicely. Probably shouldn't have put that last mushroom in there. I think that last mushroom put us a little bit over the top when it comes to how much fixings is in here. But that's what cooking's all about, You make a mistake here, you make a mistake there, and sometimes those mistakes end up discovering something cool. Like I don't know if you guys know this, but the guy that figured out how to make potato chips basically did it on a fluke. He cut his potatoes up too thin or something, and then fried them in some oil that was a little bit too hot to make scallop potatoes, and he ended up with a potato chip. And I bet you that guy's a multi-millionaire if he's still alive. All right, so we heard our ding for the bread, and these eggs are just about done as well. So let's go ahead and turn this heat off. I'm probably going to need a bigger plate than that. Yeah, let me get a bigger plate than that. All right, so we got a bigger plate now, and I'm gonna start serving this egg onto this bread. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. This is gonna be a little bit tricky. Hopefully I don't end up making a mess on my stove. And yeah, this is 4 eggs, so this is gonna be a ridiculously stacked sandwich. All right, there we go. And then the rest of this is gonna have to go on the side. There's just no other way around it. This is going to be like one of those sandwiches or one of those burgers that you get at some burger joints where it's like the meat and all the toppings and stuff just dwarfs the bread. Yeah, that's basically what's going on here. Alright, that last little bit doesn't want to come out. It's fine, I got a solution for that. Alright, and I'm just gonna have to put the camera down and do this with 2 hands. Alright, so if this sandwich wasn't already ridiculous enough, I'm gonna put a little bit of tomato on it. So I'm just gonna chop off these little ends there, and then I'll just eat that directly. All right, I think 3 slices is enough. So we'll put some tomato on this bad boy. Let me show you guys this sandwich while I decorate it and make it look pretty. Move my cutting board around. Put this knife down. All right, so that's 1 slice, 2 slice, 3. Yeah, this bread is not going to be able to hold the sandwich, but that's fine. That's how I like my sandwiches anyway. All right. Put a little bit of, not lettuce, a little bit of spinach on it. All right. And then we top it with our bread. And there we go. Breakfast of champions right there.